Why do you use clay?
I use clay because it's messy.
I use clay because it is easy to work with, and I mean, I already know how to work with it, and it's also cheaper than most materials. So
How did you start doing ceramics?
I always had an interest in doing ceramics, and when I moved to California during high school, my high school that I moved to offered it as an elective course, and I'd always been interested in it. I don't know why. I just thought it was something worth checking out, and then they offered it as an elective, so I did it, and then fell in love with it, and that's how I've been doing it.
Ask me a different.
Do you get all of your ideas from normal life?
I usually don't start with an idea, or at least I haven't in the past. I've mostly just dealt with the clay, and then especially if I'm throwing on the wheel, like I'll just make whatever comes to my mind. But as I'm growing as a potter, I'm learning to like search for ideas. I definitely do a lot of searching online before I do a project. I've been searching vessels and like different shapes of vases, and I've been looking for inspiration in other people's social media accounts, and yeah, I do a lot of research now, but when I first started, it was mostly whatever I felt the clay was telling me to do. So inspiration can come from anywhere. It can come from you, it can come from the clay, it can come from something weird that the clay is doing. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
What inspires your patterns?
Very few things actually inspire my patterns. I occasionally will see something that I want to try and replicate. I would say flowers and sun bursts are kind of more what I carve in specifics, but otherwise it's just kind of freehand and flowing. Like I don't really have a pattern in mind. They just kind of one mark bounces off of the next, and I keep it going until I run out of room.
I work with a lot of blues, and with a lot of, yeah, blue is like really a big thing for me. Very nice.
Why do you
colors to
like
work with.
ceramics?
I don't know. There was just something about ceramics that spoke to who I was and how it was created. And I don't know, it was the tactile nature of it. And I loved the community. I loved being with potters because they're just very free, very interesting people. I don't know. There was a seed planted in me, and it just took root, and now I can't help it. I just want to throw, and I want to make things, and it takes me away from my reality and helps me to mold my own self, and it's just freeing.
What do you need to keep in mind while making pottery? What are the steps?
Well, first you have your clay, and you need it to be wedged. Then you would make the vessel, whatever you're going to make it, be it by a slab or a mold or throwing it on a wheel. And once you've made it, you're going to have to let it dry and harden up. And once it's completely dry and all the moisture is out, you fire it to bisque. And then once it's fired to bisque, you take it out of the kiln and you slap some glaze on it. You can dip it, you can brush it, you can sprinkle it on there, but you gotta get the glaze on the piece, and then we fire it again with the glaze on the piece, and then after it comes out of that second firing, it's completely made.
How long does a piece usually take?
It depends. When it comes to a piece that I make and throw on the wheel and I carve, if I carve the piece, depending on the size of the piece, it'll take a bit longer. So if I throw a piece, I can throw a good sized cup in about 10 minutes, maybe even a little bit quicker. but it's going to take some time to dry out, maybe a few hours longer in the winter because it's not as hot and it's not as dry. And then I have to carve it, which can take an hour, give or take, depending on the details and the intricate pattern. And then it has to dry out completely, and then you have to fire it, and firing takes hours on its own. But I could have a piece on the wheel and then completely finished within 2 weeks if I was moving quickly enough and everything was working right. But if I had my own kiln and I wasn't working in a community where you have to have a full load before you fire it, then I could probably work a bit faster. But do you have any other jobs?
Yeah, I'm a teacher. I teach ceramics, but mostly I teach English. Yeah, that's pretty much all I want to say.
I just do. I don't think. When I meet problems such as I don't know what to do, I experiment. I just try different things because most of what I have and what I do out of what I like doing came from not knowing what to do, and I just decided to mess around and play with it, and then I ended up finding something that way. So I think when you encounter a problem like, I guess writer's block would be the equivalent, but for a potter or any artist, just keep going. Don't stop. You don't have to have an idea to get to something good. In fact, a lot of the times you don't know where you're going when you end up in good places. How do you make your work so small?
I have small hands, so that helps. It was something that when I first started working with clay, I just was throwing on the wheel and I started running out of clay, and I just kept going with it. I would use what was left, and it started getting smaller and smaller, and then it just started being like a game. Like, how small can I get this? How small can a teapot be? And it just started shrinking and shrinking my pieces, and people liked them, so I started making more. But now a lot of it isn't just like how small can I make it. It's about the precision and using the right kind of tools.
Did you learn to do them on your own?
I did learn to do that completely on my own. I had a little bit of tips that I received from people that also carved and did the same style of carving, but that was more in the area of how to do clean cuts. As far as the patterns go, those are pretty much all me, and inspiration is seldom had in the patterns that I carve.
I don't have as much time to dedicate to crafting things because I'm a teacher. And so that doesn't leave much time for me to be creative, except when I really need that outlet. And so a lot of times being married to Asa has helped me to stick with clay and to be inspired by it and to find joy in it, even if it's not me creating, if it's just me admiring, or if it's me glazing something. Being married to him has kind of allowed me to still be there, even if I'm busy in my other parts of my life.
Do you ever fight about your artwork?
Absolutely, we fight about our artwork. Mostly because I just feel like I can't grow in it right now, and he's definitely growing in it. And
You be jealous?
yes, of course, I'm definitely jealous. He's an excellent potter, and he's gonna only get better. And we fight about other things as well. Like sometimes I feel like I'm putting more effort into it, into the social media part. And sometimes he just wants to throw all the time.
What do you do in your free time?
Clay.
and that's awesome. I think that's great. I think that's part of the reason why he's such a good potter. But I think that any good relationship is going to have its challenges. And so working through those challenges just makes it even better and more worth the time.
Why do you work together?
It's just the nature of our relationship. That's how we met. We met when we were at the studio and he was throwing and I was throwing, and our conversations were sparked by clay. So it just seems natural that we would continue that into our marriage, and everything else is shared. Our finances are shared, our house is shared, our clay is shared. So it just makes sense that we would share this passion of ours.
What's harder, to make big pieces or little pieces?
I think each has its own challenges. Making small pieces, obviously, like I said before, it demands that you're precise. It demands that that you're careful, and so do big pieces, especially if you're making them for commercial.
What is a good thing and a bad thing about working with your spouse?
It's a good thing that she really holds me to being a good artist and not taking shortcuts. Like making sure my pot is clean and it's an actual good piece worth keeping before firing and all that. If I can't get to something, she can help me out with it. If I don't want to do something, then she can help me out with it, and vice versa. Like, if she doesn't want to do something or she can't get to something, she can ask me. Bad thing would be that our cupboards fill up a lot faster and we have no room for dishes. There's not too many bad things about working with your wife.
What's your most famous artwork?
I could hardly call it famous, but we have an Instagram account, social media, and so one of the videos that we took, Daisy took a video of me carving on a plate, I think it was a plate, and she posted the video of me carving, and that reached, I think, over 10,000 views. Yeah, I think over 10,000. That, I mean, if you can call only 10,000 people seeing it famous, then that's our most famous piece.
If one day you can't do clay anymore, what would you do?
I have done some woodwork in the past and some metal work as well. If clay wasn't an option, I doubt that woodwork or metalwork would be, but I would be excited to try those again and do something with that. I've never really been into drawing a whole lot, like just pen and paper, but if I was super limited and that was my only outlet for creativity, then I might express myself that way. Or maybe just writing. I do like to write occasionally.